we gather here to amplify the voices of those who were silenced, oppressed, and marginalized, right? So together, we magnify their voices. Right now, I would like to invite the judges to introduce themselves. Join me in welcoming the first judge of our event.
Hello guys. My name is Khalal Prince. I'm a first year student at SMU.
Now, for our very own second judge of the event. Dumelang le kae? 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 Hi guys. Hi. I am the coach of the debate team. So yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Happy Human Rights Day.
Thank you.
In short, my name is Billy, commonly known as Botshabelo Wahamana Mastoro Sakoma Chambi. I am a master's candidate in political sciences at the University Thank you.
Introduction to follow, I must say. Good evening, everyone. My name is Similo Sienga. I am a quantity surveying and civil engineering student. I'm also the CEO of
Thank you. You're welcome to Evanist judges. So guys, together today, let's stand firm with those who fought for justice, equality, and also dignity. Let us not forget that freedom is not just a privilege, right? But a fundamental right for human rights. Me?
Okay, so our judges will guide us through tonight's debate and inspiring the voices of freedom. And it is our pleasure to have to present tonight's program. And so we would like to start with a very special musical performance by our very own talented UN choir. And so together, let's listen, learn, and be inspired by the voices of freedom. Thank you.
Allow me to introduce this beautiful quote that has been echoing, or shall I say, lingering in my mind. It is when he said, it means a great deal to those who are oppressed to know that they are not alone, and that never let anyone tell you that what you are doing is insignificant. Ladies, gentlemen, and fellow opponents, my name is Kelvin Konzano, the Prime Minister of the opening government, and it is an honor to be in favor of the motion stating that social media is helping human rights activism. Well, I'd like to start by defining what exactly the motion states. Let's start with activism. According to Oxford Languages Dictionary, activism is the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. Second, human rights. According to UNICEF, human rights are standards that recognize and protect the dignity of all human beings. And lastly, social media. According to American Psychological Association, also known as the APA, social media are forms of digital communication through which users create online communities to share information, ideas, personal messages, and other content. Well, now which brings us to this. How does social media exactly help human activism? Well, social media enables activists to reach a wider audience, therefore spreading awareness quickly and efficiently. Not only does it do that, it also empowers individuals to take action and participate in political and social movements. Now, this brings us to global connectivity. What is it? Well, global connectivity is the ability of people, devices, systems worldwide to communicate and transfer data in real time. And how does this have to do with social media? Global connectivity enables activists to connect with people across borders and builds international movements. I would like to state 3 examples of what I am saying. My first example would be the Black Lives Matter movement, which gained traction in 2020. This was during the COVID-19 pandemic. This gained traction in 2020 because movement was restricted during the pandemic. Therefore, social media was the only source people could communicate and interact with each other. So, the second point is the GBV movement. Now, this is a major movement in our country, South Africa. And here's the fun about this particular movement. This movement is on most social media platforms, if not all. And this movement gained humongous amounts of traction, all thanks to social media that allows people to participate and engage with movements that are for human rights. How do we know that this actually worked? Well, we have the likes of Keliku Malu, who are part of the GBV movement, and Sasha Lee, the Miss South Africa of 2019. Now, let's talk about the last movement, the gender equality movement. Excuse me. This is in particular a product of global connectivity. Why do I say so? The gender inequality movement is basically a product of global connectivity because it spread awareness globally. And yes, gender inequality counts as a human right to those who did not know. Social media has connected the world in ways that former human rights activists like Desmond Tutu, Muhammad Gandhi, and Martin Luther King Jr. could have only imagined. Now that we have established how social media helps human rights activism, Stephanie, my second speaker, will delve deeper on how social media helps on human rights activism. Thank you.
Activism works. So what I am telling you to do now is to act. Because no one is too small to make a difference. Let me say that again. No one is too small to make a difference. Freedom is never voluntarily given by the oppressor. It is demanded by those who are oppressed. Let me say that. It is demanded by those who are oppressed. Educators, esteemed opponents, my fellow judges, and the House at large, it is an honor to be in the opposition of this federal motion that social media does not help human rights activism. The person standing before you is Sandro Kumalo, and I am the leader of opposition. In recent years, social media has often been hailed as a powerful tool for human rights activism, connecting individuals, amplifying voices, and raising awareness on a global scale. However, this assumption deserves a critical examination. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag Am I Next? Hashtag Me Too. But these are all social media activisms that have gained traction. But have they been put into action? Have they solved any social issues that are within our realities? Now, I would like to say that while platforms like Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram provide visibility to pressing issues, their impact may be more superficial rather than it is substantial. Today, as we celebrate Human Rights Day, House Opposition would like to remind the audience why we celebrate this esteemed day. Human Rights Day in South Africa is historically linked with 21 March 1960, and the events of the Sharpeville massacre. On that day, 69 people died and 180 were wounded when police forced on a peaceful crowd that had gathered in protest against the pastors. This day marked an affirmation by ordinary people, rising in unison to proclaim their rights. It became an iconic date in our country's history that today we commemorate as Human Rights Day, as a reminder of our rights and the cost paid for our treasured human rights. Now I shall say again, activism works. So I am telling you now to act. Now we are aware as House opposition that that social media spreads awareness at a much larger scale, but has its theoretical values been applied to reality? To guide this debate in the right direction, House opposition will define the following terms: human rights activism, social media, and the term help. Human rights activism is any action that calls for change and accountability to protect and promote human rights, which are inherent to all individuals, regardless of their background. This is according to the United Nations Human Rights. Furthermore, we would like to define social media. Social media, according to Merriam-Webster, refers to online platforms and applications that enable users to create, share, and interact with content as well as connect with others in virtual communities. These platforms facilitate communication through text, images, videos, and forms of user-generated content. Examples, as I have stated before, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. Furthermore, Merriam-Webster defines again help as to give assistance or support to someone, to provide someone with something that is useful or necessary in achieving an aid. Something that is necessary in achieving an aid. Now, social media is something that uses human rights activism to achieve an end, but it does not use it as a means to itself. House opposition acknowledges that social media is useful or necessary in achieving a desired end in human rights activism, but it has its limitations, such as misinformation, the fleeting nature of online trends. It is not reliable and it has short attention spans. How many times have we moved from Black Lives Matter? Now we are seeing someone else move. It is too fast-paced to focus on one thing. Thus, we further address the point. It has been used by corporate powers for harassment and intimidation of human rights activism supporters. It has promoted activism. It has perpetuated exclusion and digital divide. And thus, these are the points my second speaker would expand on, as I do not wish to give you the full scope of where this debate is going. This debate invites us to consider whether social media is truly a catalyst for human rights activism, or its influence remains overstated and ineffective in delivering tangible outcomes. So as I say again, activism works, but I urge you to act. No one at all is too small to make a difference. Thank you.
One death is a tragedy. Millions of deaths are statistically. Greetings to the audience and House at large. The one before you stands as Stephanie Okuye as Deputy Prime Minister of the House of Government. Carrying on from the first speaker, the House wishes to expand on the effectiveness of social media with regards to human rights activism. Arguments will be made on how social media removes limitations on information, facilitates dialogue, and promotes accountability. To address something, the previous speaker, the opposition leader, mentioned how there are many factors contributing to the ineffectiveness of social media. And to that I say, we can attribute that to a couple of bad actors. And to furthermore, I would like to ask, do we undermine the effectiveness of social media because of the malicious intent of a few people? Do we ignore the help, the aid, the outreach that comes to social media just because some people spread falsehoods? To that, I say no. The first point, social media removes limitations on the amount of information and news shared. According to the study, the impact of social media on social activism Taking Black Lives Matter, for example, it gives journalists more power. That is, Twitter gives journalists a platform that they can write and post their own stories. Likes, comments, shares drive the algorithm, which help reach a broader audience, as seen with the UK and its response to the Black Lives Matter movement. The UK Parliament's House of Lords Library states the Black Lives Matter protest held during the summer of 2020 provoked response from both national and public authorities across the UK. If this isn't further proof of the power social media has, take the hashtag #EndSARS movement that happened in Nigeria of the same year, 2020. The hashtag #EndSARS movement was a call against police brutality. The movement was so effective that the Nigerian government had to shut down Twitter for a period of 8 months because it gained global traction. These are prime examples showing the effects of social media, showing the effects social media has on globalization and information sharing.
Since the Nigerian government had the question that the movement is age, what they do to actually solve the problem?
That's a good question. In regards to that, efforts have been made to halt and to hold those accountable for the police brutality and responsible in court through legal action. Secondly, social media acts as a means to facilitate dialogue by opening conversation that were previously closed. Change today isn't promised. However, we can seize the future. According to the National Library of Medicine, up to 95% of youth today, ages 13 to 17, report using a social media platform, with more than a third of them saying they use social media constantly. With the use of social media, educating the youth for a better tomorrow is possible, as activism requires informed people. With over 8 billion people, there is no shortage of people to inform. Thirdly, in terms of promoting accountability, the hashtag #MeToo movement has proven quite effective with the help of social media. Though started in 2013, it only recently gained traction in 2017. In the weeks that it gained popularity across various social media platforms, it became a massive movement, with harassment and sexual violence being brought to justice, including the arrest and conviction of serial predator Harvey Weinstein. In regards to GDP, similarly can be applied. Social media can act as a response for survivors, as well as a space for them. Women for Change, a South African non-profit organization, is proof of this. Through social media, they are committed to amplifying awareness and empowering through education. With over 450,000 followers and over 25 million monthly views across all platforms, they are creating a national community and assisting 150 survivors and all their families daily.
My question is, you're saying that many followers, so how much change in policies? I see the followers, I see the likes, how much change?
Your question is valid. I hear it. And to that I say, they are assisting 150 survivors and their families daily. This is just the beginning. As previously mentioned, it is only through social media in current years that they will be able to make this difference, although small. Women for Change is an organization that showcases the power of social media and its ability to reach people. 150 may not sound big today, but this is 150 that stands as the stepping stone for tomorrow. To conclude, social media has become a crucial part in people's power. It is a tool for which change is instigated, information is shared, and where dialogue can happen. overlooking this crucial cornerstone of a society, of a modern society, does a disservice to those who found justice and meaningful change through it. Our third speaker will further build our case. Does it empower or endanger human rights activism? The social media paradox amplifying human rights voices while silencing others. Greetings to the judges, the members, and the House at large. The one standing before you is Program Master, and I represent myself as the deputy leader of opposition, also known as the second speaker. Right. So the first speaker of House government mentioned that social media helps. It helps who? Does it help the ones that weaponize social media? Does it help the one that use social media as a tool to violate human rights? Does it help the one who do not have social media? What about those who do not have social media? How does it help them? How do they reach the awareness that social media like Facebook, your Instagram, your TikTok lays the foundation for awareness? How does it reach them? What about those who do not have access to the internet? How does it reach them? These are the questions that everybody has to consider. The answer to that is that no, it doesn't. As the motion stands of our argument, is that social media is not helping, but rather it devalues and harms human rights activism. To strengthen my argument, there is the social media, there's a shift towards performative activism, also known as slacktivism. What does that mean? Is that social media enables individuals to engage with activism through actions like sharing posts, using hashtags, liking, creating an illusion to think that we have a widespread support. Do we really have widespread support? What is support? What is action? However, these gestures often land in social media as hashtags and ends in social media as hashtags. Where is the real life action and the real life action of trying to resolve these issues? For example, the Am I Next movement. It gained traction globally as an awareness against gender-based violence and human rights violence. It came as a hashtag, likes, shared, and ended there as a hashtag. It never went to the street. It was never activized into trying to solve this problem of gender-based violence. Rather, gender-based violence actually escalated instead of de-escalating. Doesn't that show us that social media devalues human rights activism? Doesn't it show that social media does not help? According to Newsroom Africa, and according to the sex space studies, misinformation and disinformation is a widespread issue in South Africa. Not just in South Africa, but also in the world. Social media has proven itself that it's not all just glamour, milk and honey. You get what I'm saying? So according to these studies, social media platforms can spread false or misleading information, which undermines trust of human rights organizations and distracts them from important issues. This has become a breeding ground for falsified information that dilutes credible sources. Now you can't even tell the difference of which source is credible and which one is not, because even credible sources has become so diluted with false information. An example of this is that the hashtag words must fall, the hashtag fears must fall. Yes, social media has helped to raise awareness. It has been like a foundation to raise awareness. We acknowledge that, but we also have to consider dire consequences of using social media as a tool to raise awareness. For example, with these movements, there has been 72%, I repeat, 72% of widespread misinformation about these movements. They cause disengagement, chaos, or even cause traction between the law enforcement and the protesters because of the very same misinformation. It also studies that 66% of South Africans consume false information daily, like every day. We consume this information. It also shows that 76% of fake news, they actually share unknowingly and knowingly. If this is not an issue, then what is it? Another one is the short attention span and the trend chasing. Social media rapid pace means that the attention quickly shifts to another issue. For example, the hashtag protect immigrants, the one that was attacking xenophobic attacks in South Africa, it only lasted for a week before another hashtag came back, before another trend came back. This shows us it's actually a small paced amount of time. This does not even give human rights activism to grow and to engage as a long-term campaign. It's actually usually cut short by another trend. This is what social media is. It overshadows important issues with issues that are more dramatic, that receive more likes, that receive more followers, because Big Zulu did this. Instead of having to chase for a woman died, a woman was raped, we follow how many likes does happen. This is an issue. If this isn't an issue, then what does Team House government call it? Another issue is the physical harassment, right? And also the physical harassment. Online harassment can actually be traction to physical. It does not only stop the social media.
there has been reports that human rights defenders or activists have been online, have been bullied, cyberbullied, have received death threats, and because of the personal information that has been put on social media, according to the stats which comes with the widespread survey, it shows that social media activists or human rights activists, they're actually surveillance and targeted, in a sense that 2 out of 3 human rights activists put visibly and openly their personal information on social media, which makes them easy target for assassination and attacks. For example of this, as we went to take that from, there is an example of this, to celebrate the lives of those who died. I'm going to talk about 2 victims that lost their lives because of this. Pamela Mbini and also the imam, the Muslim imam that recently died, I think last month. The imam was the human rights activism for the LGBTQIA+ community. He was gunned down in Rebecca because of what he said. He was gunned down because of the activism. What led to his gun down? He put his location on social media. This is how they tracked and murdered him. Moving to that, when of course on tokenism and division, how does raising awareness, does it reach everybody? What about the people that live in the rural areas who do not have access to internet, who do not have access to social media? How do they receive the awareness that you guys are talking about? The censorship, the removal of posts, the banning of posts where a social media activist or human rights activist will put out a campaign somewhere and eventually is removed. This shows what my last speaker's points, that social media favors those who are strong, favors elites, favors government officials which have power to remove posts, which have power to ban posts. So now, what is the solution to such issues? We shouldn't diverge to traditional ways of raising awareness. We can't only depend solely on social media. We also have to use other alternatives to make sure that information and awareness raises to everybody, including those who do not have access to social media, such as your radios, your newspapers, your door-to-door campaigns, your sit-ins, your petitions, your go-slows. Those are physical real-life actions, not hashtag that starts and ends there. Thank you so much, guys, for considering.
Social media, the bridge that connects us, not the wall that divides us. Ladies and gentlemen, this statement resonates with the principle of Ubuntu, which emphasizes interconnectedness, community, and mutual support, as well as highlighting the potential to promote unity, cooperation, and human rights. Salutation to my esteemed judges, my esteemed guests, my fellow opponents. Standing before you is Undreta Mozwagaye, member of House Government. First things first, I would like to highlight the arguments made by the opposition party. The leader of opposition party stated that online or social media can be superficial, which basically means that they are saying individuals feel satisfied with simply liking or sharing a post rather than taking concrete offline action. While this may be true, we must not forget the fact that activism can be a crucial stepping stone for further engagement and offline action. The opposition government is focused on the negative impacts that may come about, but we are forgetting that in this world that we live in, we need solutions. Now, what happens when we want to spread the word now? Are we going to go house to house? Or we can just use a tool that spreads information to large groups within minutes? Why do you think influencers get paid? I'll answer that for you. They get paid because they show people that the word needs to spread now, not at a later stage. You are talking about it harms people. Where is the fact? Where is the evidence? We are talking about majority, not minority. You say online campaigns may not always translate real world change. You're basically saying they don't show what's happening in the world, leading to frustration and disillusionment among activists, and that they are designed to prioritize new and trending content. If that is the case, how can we know about Black Lives Matter now, when it was a thing that happened a long time ago? The second speaker of opposition party mentioned online harassment. That only happens to few people. We are talking about the major impact to large population. Who stands at the high ground now? We are not disputing the one. rejected. We are not disputing the impact that this may cause, and the argument sounds appealing, but the numbers don't lie. And that is according to Human Rights Career that social media reaches every one of us in a positive manner to, of course, help human rights activism. The first speaker mentioned that social media platforms are controlled by corporations, which can limit the ability of human rights activists to mobilize. Why not? I had a solution. That's how government works. The solution is platform corporativism. Activists can promote it when social media platforms are owned and controlled by their users rather than corporate people. You are talking about social media affects the credibility of the source, that we can trust it. You came up with a source. Can you trust it? Don't answer that, I was just saying. By now, the House government and the opposition are on the same page. If not, well, it's their loss. As we've discussed, social media has revolutionized the way we approach human rights activism. My predecessors have highlighted the importance of social media in amplifying marginalized voices, mobilizing support, and promoting accountability. We've seen numerous examples of successful social media-driven campaigns, such as Black Lives Matter, which raise awareness about racism, discrimination, and racial inequality experienced by Black people. And before you come for me, this is an example of human rights activism. All races matter because we are all human after all. Some may argue that, like the leader of the opposition party, argued that activism is superficial or ineffective. Oh, you are accepted.
House opposition acknowledged that social media spread awareness. And in terms of the Black Lives Matter movement, it did gain awareness and traction, but the racism stopped.
Racism didn't stop because in every world there's bad potatoes and there's good potatoes. So it stopped now because we can stand with a white person, we can talk with them, you go to UP. If it didn't stop somehow a little, then you wouldn't go to UP. So as I was saying, some may argue that social media activism is superficial or ineffective. But I'll come to that it can be a powerful tool for raising awareness. Lastly but not least, activists can use censorship circumvention tools like VPNs to access blocked content and communicate with supporters. By doing that, they are also protecting their personal information. That is the cherry on top. Thank you to the House at large. That was our argument.
Social media might amplify voices, but without real action, it's just noise, loud but ineffective. Honorable Chair, fellow debaters, and members of the House, I stand before you today as Rosaria Talea, member of opposition. We argue that social media does not help human rights activism in South Africa. In fact, it often harms meaningful progress. Let's break this down. The idea that social media is a lifeline for activism may sound appealing, but let's take a hard look at the reality. Yes, social media plays a role in raising awareness, but let's not be fooled into thinking that and automatically leads to change. What happens if they're wrong? When social media fails to drive tangible results, we end up with a situation where we're gaining visibility without actually achieving an end goal. What happens if we're wrong? We lose time, yes. Then we acknowledge that social media aids human rights activism in social media. Social media being a tool, not a long-lasting or sustainable movement. Now let's address the issue of mobilization. Yes, social media can spark a conversation, but what does it lead to when the conversation is unfocused or chaotic? It's important to remember that social media can't constitute the deep, sustained work of online organizing. Let's use Sharpeville. Today we were celebrating human rights. Let's use the Sharpeville massacre. Basically what happened is that people saw that the bus law is not going to work. Nobody tweeted about it. We stood, we talked about it, and we were like, you know what, we're tired of this. Why as black people, we should walk around with identifying documents. That didn't need a hashtag, that didn't need a tweet, that needed us, and they acted upon it. Hence, activism. Social media can create fleeting moments of visibility, but that's not activism. Real change requires more than just exposure. It requires action, accountability, results, not an if, when, should solution. Movements like #FreezeMustFall raised awareness, but with face-to-face meetings, negotiations, and tireless effort, without this strategic offline planning, the entire momentum of the frizzle of social media wouldn't have worked out. And let's not ignore the darker side of social media. Sure, it can help amplify voices, but it can also fuel information and division. Remember the chaos during the July 2021 riots in South Africa where misinformation spread like wildfire on platforms? What about the argument that says, well, the government listens? Does the government listen to us? Just because you post about something, Black Lives Matter, doesn't mean there's actual traction. Tell me policies that have changed. Tell me policies that have changed. You cannot, can you? What is the solution? We need a comparison approach that blends on the line of activism. With real-world effort, social media has its place, but it cannot be the sole driver of human rights. To conclude, let's not be seduced and rejected by the idea that social media is the solution to our problems. It's just one tool in the toolbox. What needs to happen are strategic long-term solutions that address the root causes of inequality and injustice. And I leave you with this question. Did our presence and our argument leave you informed and concerned? Or do you have rather I posted about it and waited for your likes and comments? Thank you.